I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
What's up, homies? Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. You know what this one is, Khabib versus Gaethje. Before we get into breakdowns, smoke break, make sure you smash that like button. Alright guys, hope you enjoy. First fight on this card, we have Joel Alvarez versus Alexander Yakovlev, and we're going to start with Alvarez. So Alvarez comes into this fight 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC, primarily a grappler, multiple submission wins in his MMA career to date. Looking at his UFC career, he had that tough debut against Ismagulov, which was basically a 15-minute kickboxing lesson for Alvarez. Looking at Joel's most recent performance, he was able to get a submission win against Joe Duffy. Alvarez was pretty happy to keep that fight standing. He was happy to kickbox with Joe. But Duffy, he looked for a takedown, and from there, Alvarez sunk in that submission. He used that foundation of jiu-jitsu. The opponent, Yakovlev, comes into this fight 3 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Just like Alvarez, Yakovlev is primarily a grappler, somehow making 155 pounds at 6'2"? Yakovlev really isn't a dangerous striker. We see that in the Alex de Silva fight. Yakovlev was pretty much being outgunned on the feet, only finding success with his grappling. So we have grappler versus grappler in this one. Who's the better striker? I wouldn't say there's a clear answer, but I feel Alvarez is probably the answer. Now, can Yakovlev out-grapple Alvarez? I wouldn't say no. It's a super tough prediction to make, but I feel better about taking Alvarez. He's coming off that nice upset win over Joe Duffy. He should be fairly comfortable kickboxing with Yakovlev, landing those low kicks and expecting to grapple at times in this fight. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Joel Alvarez via decision. My numbers would be Alvarez minus 150, Yakovlev plus 120. The current numbers, we have Yakovlev plus 130, plus 125, Alvarez minus 150. So yeah, beautiful way to start with the numbers for this card. I completely agree with the line. I'd give the slight advantage to Alvarez, but man, it really is a 50-50 who the hell knows type of fight. Let me know who you're taking below. Liana Jojua versus Maryna Maverick, and we're going to start with Liana. So Liana comes into this fight 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC, primarily a Muay Thai striker. Liana dropped down to 125 in her last fight. I took her as an underdog in that one. She was able to use her BJJ to get it done. Ultimately, the grappling was the difference in that fight. This time, however, I believe Liana must stick to her foundation of Muay Thai to find success. The opponent, Maryna Maverick, comes into this fight 7 wins, 2 losses as a pro, making her UFC debut. Maryna is a wrestler, super strong wrestler. If she takes you down, she's going to work towards submitting you. Multiple rear naked choke wins already in her MMA career. Now, if Maryna finds herself in a kickboxing fight for 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, do not be surprised if this fight is close. Like I said earlier, Liana is primarily a Muay Thai striker. She will look to keep this fight in that kickboxing situation. Maryna needs that takedown. Not towards the end of round 1, not in round 2, as quick as she can in that first round. With that game plan, I see her potentially finishing Liana. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Maryna via submission in round number 1. Like I just said, man, if it stays on the feet and it's kickboxing, do not be surprised if Liana keeps it close or even edges out rounds. But if Maryna has the game plan of, I'm going straight in there, I'm taking you to the mat, and from there, I'm going to do my work, then it could be very one-sided. I'm going to go more towards that than an upset, but Yeah, I'm just putting that out there. If it stays on the feet, don't be surprised. My line would be Miranda minus 220, Liana plus 190. And the actual odds are Miranda minus 420. Wow, we're going to spark up on the next breakdown, the next pick for that one. Liana coming back plus 350, plus 330. So if Liana, like I said, if she does keep it on the feet, plus 330 is crazy. If Miranda goes in there and straight takes her down, looks to use her jiu-jitsu, her wrestling, smothers Liana with that top control, Khabib style, then yeah, minus 420 is pretty worth it. Jung versus Sam Alvey, and we got that minus 420 on Miranda, so you know what you do when you see that price. Little early amen, you know. So starting with Jung. Jung comes into this fight 2-0 inside the UFC. Debuted against Hawes. Huge underdog win in that debut. I actually had Jung in that fight. Too bad I didn't have the recent opponent of Hawes. But having said that, Jung had a nice debut win. It was a shock upset. After that fight, he completely slept Mike Rodriguez in beautiful fashion. Pure precision in that punch. We don't really know too much about Jung yet. But what we can say is he's on the right path. 2 fights, 2 wins. He deserves to be at the highest level. The opponent, Sam Alvey, comes into this fight 10 wins, 9 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a counter-puncher. This will be Sam's 20th UFC fight. Spending most of his career at 185. He's currently 2 wins, 4 losses at light heavyweight. Sam isn't the most dynamic of fighters. His footwork is pretty basic, isn't that light at all, quite flat-footed. Just isn't offering much in 2020, you know? It's a Sam Alvey that everyone is familiar with. We know his game plan. Smile at the opponent and hope the counterpunch lands, right? I'm not saying Sam Alvey cannot sleep Jung. Sam's definitely got the power. He's always got that chance. But Jung showed me pure precision in that Rodriguez win. He showed me that he's potentially more precise, more dangerous with his boxing than Sam Alvey is. So down to those reasons, I'm going to take Jung to finish Sam Alvey or even pick up a decision win over 15 minutes. My prediction's going to be Jung via TKO in round number 2. My line would be pretty unfair on Sam Alvey. I'll take Jung minus 200, Sam Alvey plus 170. And the actual line is Jung minus 400, minus 350, which Sam Alvey's getting some disrespect come his way there. Sam returning plus 290, plus 270. Yeah, the line's a little bit heavy. But like I said, man, Sam Alvey isn't offering much in 2020. He looks the same, flat-footed, just looking to land that counter punch, and Jung looked really good against Mike Rodriguez. He got that upset win in his debut. He's on the right path, like I said. So yeah, the pick is going to be Jung, and I'm still waiting to take an underdog on this card. This is a good one. This is a good fight. We have Alex Oliveira versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, and we're going to start with Alex. So Alex comes into this fight 11 wins, 6 losses inside the UFC. A Muay Thai fighter with some pretty slick BJJ too. Everyone loves to watch the Brazilian Cowboy go to battle. He doesn't hold back. Whether you want to kickbox or grapple, Alex Oliveira is a game opponent for anyone. Had a really nice performance against Peter Sabota not too long ago. The teeps to the body that Alex used in that fight, super damaging. The opponent, Shavkat, comes into this fight 12 wins, 0 losses as a pro, making his UFC debut. Shavkat is primarily a grappler, combat sambo, and some jiu-jitsu. However, just like Cowboy, Shavkat is a game opponent. If you want to kickbox, he can compete there. He will compete there. The technique I've seen this man use in some of the tape I've seen, again, this guy deserves to be at the highest level. This one really goes either way. Cowboy is the type of fighter that can beat anyone on his day, but the problem is he can slow down a lot. If he isn't fighting his best fight, most of the time it looks pretty close. Round 1, I would expect Cowboy to show us a lot of what we know, kicks, craziness, even takedowns. But after round 1, I would expect Shavkat to come into this fight a little more. It's really personal preference. For me, I prefer to side with the newcomer here. Like I said, after round 1, I would expect technique and composure to take over a little bit. Maybe even finish Cowboy late with a submission. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Shavkat via submission in round number 3. There's no doubt in my mind there's going to be people in the comment section taking the Brazilian Cowboy. Some people are going to be taking the newcomer. It really does go either way, you know. Cowboy, on his day, against anyone he can look good. But he can also be in really close fights. Slows down a lot. Uses a lot of energy in those grappling situations and kind of fatigues in there. That wasn't the case in his last one against Peter Sobotta, but that could be the case in this one, you know? The newcomer, in my opinion, the tape I've seen, I like it. I like what I see from Shavkat. The combat sambo, the jiu-jitsu, the technique in the kickboxing, the composure that I see. Man, this one really goes either way. My line would be close, Shavkat minus 120, Cowboy plus 110. And the actual odds are Shavkat coming in plus 115, plus 110, Oliveira minus 120. Yeah, you can't argue too much. This is going to be my first underdog pick on the card. I'm not extremely confident, but if I was on Cowboy, I wouldn't be extremely confident that he's going to win either. So, really shows us that the matchmaking in this one is perfect. Let me know who you're taking below. Man, this is a good one. Casey Kenney versus Nathaniel Wood. And we're going to start with Casey. So Casey comes into this fight 4 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Casey really is becoming a quality fighter, improving fight by fight. His wrestling against Ray Borg really showed us that potential. Then he did a real number on Manny Bermudez. Most recently smashing Heli Alateng. The body kicks from Casey Kenney in that fight. Really brilliant. Casey has only been beaten by one man, and that one man is Merab Dvalishvili, a cardio wrestling machine. The opponent, Nathaniel Wood, comes into this fight with the same record, 4 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a boxer and wrestler. Nathaniel is quite well rounded actually, even has some decent jiu-jitsu to go along with his wrestling. Most recently fought against Castaneda, completely outclassed him, used a lot of kicks in that fight too. Both of these fighters have the same UFC record. Both of these fighters are coming off wins in which the leg kicks and body kicks were really good weapons for them. This is great matchmaking from the UFC. I'm sure the comment section will have good arguments for both fighters. What is the real difference though? For me, personally, I believe Casey Kenney has slightly better conditioning, more punching power, just seems to be a little bit more durable than Nathaniel Wood. Other than that, I see both of these guys being equally matched. I do have to side with the guy I feel that has the slight edge, and that's Casey Kenney. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Casey Kenney via decision. Now, could Nathaniel Wood win this fight? Absolutely. His wrestling is good. His kickboxing is good. He's shown us that so far in his UFC career. But Casey Kenney, on the flip side, exactly the same thing. His wrestling, conditioning, cardio, durability, the way he's improving fight by fight. You know, how do you really make a pick here? For me, it's purely down to which guy can go a little bit more. Which guy's a little bit more durable? Which guy has a little bit better of a gas tank? And I think those answers is Casey Kenney. But like I said, man, if you disagree, that's fair because this is a great matchup. My odds would be Casey Kenney minus 120, Nathaniel plus 110. And the actual odds for this fight at the moment, Nathaniel coming in plus 150, plus 160, Casey returning minus 200. I would have to disagree. Casey Kenney should be, you know, minus 200. That's a little bit too much. I would expect some money to come in on Nathaniel Wood. He's a great fighter. You know, fight by fight, he's showing his ability too. So is Casey. In my opinion, the line is a little bit off, but yeah, the pick is going to be Casey in this brilliant matchmaking fight. Tough prediction to make in this one, guys. We have Stefan Struve versus Tai Tuivasa, and we're going to start with Stefan. So Stefan comes into this fight 13 wins, 10 losses inside the UFC. The skyscraper. The man who has all the physical advantages you could ask for, but just cannot use it to his advantage. Having said that, I do have to admit that Stefan was really doing well in that fight against Ben Rothwell. He was using his kicks to actually keep the fight at a distance. But eventually, after 2 groin strikes, Ben was able to get the fight up against the fence. From there, he was just dangerous. Too dangerous for Stefan. The opponent, Tai Tuivasa, comes into this fight 3 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a brawler inside the octagon. Hasn't won a fight in a few minutes, you know. Tai really needs to show us improved takedown defense in this fight. His takedown defense is absolutely an area he needs to show improvements. As for his kickboxing, brawling mentality, is he going to look sharper? Is he going to look Ortega-esque? Probably not, but he won't need to against a guy like Stefan Struve. If Stefan takes Tuivasa to the mat, I'd expect it to end pretty badly for Tai. Ground and pound finish, or even a submission for Stefan Struve. However, if Tai, like I said, can show us improvements in staying on the feet, then it's a completely different fight. Tai Tuivasa is tough as nails. He loves to brawl. Stefan isn't tough as nails. He doesn't love to brawl. It's one or the other, guys. For me, I'm taking the brawler in this one. I just hope he doesn't end up on the mat. If he does end up on the mat, then I'm sure everyone taking Stefan would absolutely love that. My pick is going to be Tai Tuivasa via TKO in round number 1. My numbers would be Tai -140, Stefan +100, +110. And the actual odds, -110 each. You know, perfect. It's probably a fight you should stay away from, betting wise. It really could go either way. You know, who knows? If Tai gets in there, stays on the feet, boom, it could happen for him. If Stefan gets in there, takes down Tai, boom, it could happen for him. -110 each side is perfect. Who the hell knows? Alright, the homies, you know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, amen. If you're not a smoker, but you enjoy the smoke breaks, triple amen, gang. Let's go. Now, before I get into the positivity message, I just want to mention that Brian Ortega looked unbelievable, man. He really did. I mean, a lot of us took Zombie, right? I know that. I did see the Brian Ortega picks as well. But you've got to give him credit, man. Like, if someone left a comment saying, hey, Brian Ortega's going to stand for 25 minutes, he'll get a takedown or two here and there, but hey, he's going to stand for 25 minutes and he's going to look unbelievable. I guarantee you so many people would have replied to that comment like, bro, what strain have you got? Because I want some of that, you know what I mean? Brian Ortega looked unbelievable. He looked unbelievable, and I want to start the positivity message with that because Brian Ortega has proven that when you work at it, you can only improve. You can only get better when you work at it, man. So, hey, amen to Brian Ortega. I didn't make the pick, but amen to Brian Ortega, man. Now, the inspirational story. It's going to be about Sylvester Stallone, aka Rocky Balboa. Now, some of you homies will be familiar with this story, but there's going to be a lot of you that probably aren't too familiar. So, you know, if you know this story, hey, sit back and enjoy it. If you don't know the story, listen up. And we're going to spark up too, you know, story time, positive vibes. We're going to spark up for this. Okay, here goes. Stallone, right? This guy was homeless at one point. Had nothing to his name. He was sleeping in bus shelters. He did have a dog, right? He had a dog. That's all he had though. This guy, this megastar, he was homeless at one point, guys. He started to write a script, a story about a boxer. He was inspired by Muhammad Ali, and that's what gave him the idea to write this script. He spent weeks on this script, right? Writing it, getting it right. Eventually, he went to a studio. He said, hey, look, I've got a script. I want you guys to take a look at it, and hopefully you buy the script. They took a look at it, they read it, and they really liked it. They liked what he wrote. They said to him, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you some money for this script. You're homeless. It's a really good script. We're going to give you some money. They offered him, I'm not too sure how much they offered him, but they offered him a good amount of money, guys. They offered him thousands, right? 50k, something really decent. Now, he was homeless. He heard that offer and, you know, it made him happy, but he didn't take this offer. He rejected. He only had one agreement that they must meet, and his only agreement was, I want to be the star in my script, right? And they heard that and they said, hey, no, that's not going to happen. You know, you've got a funny face, because, you know, he was born with a deficit, and that's why he has that face. But they said to him, look, you've got a funny face, you're not an actor. No, you're not going to star in this, but we're going to pay you for it. And he said no. He walked out of that studio with his script, went back to the bus shelter. Now, I didn't mention at the start of the story, at this point, living was so rough that he sold his dog. He sold his dog, right? He has no money. He's living homeless. He had to sell his dog to eat. Now, he sold this dog for $50, something, you know, cheap. He needed to eat, right? So eventually he goes back to the studio. They offer him more money. They say, we're not going to let you star in the movie, but we're going to offer you even more money. He thought about it longer. You know, he took longer with his time to make a decision this time. He's homeless. He needs the money. He still said no, guys. This man still said no. They offered him a lot of money, over 100 grand, 200 grand. We're going to buy your script, but you don't star in the movie. And he still said no. He left the studio again. Eventually, they came to an agreement, guys. Hey, you can star in the movie. Now, all of you know how good that movie done. That movie is a classic, one of the biggest selling movies of all time. But that's not the story, you know, that's not the moral to the story. The moral of the story, in my opinion, is you get nothing in life without struggling. You get nothing without working hard. You get nothing without fighting for what you want. You cannot accomplish your purpose without working on your purpose. You cannot succeed and live the life you want without putting everything you have into making it a reality, guys. That's the message of the story. A homeless man turned down hundreds of thousands of pounds just because it didn't serve his purpose. That is truly one of the most inspirational stories I'll ever read, I'll ever know about. It really is. Now, when Rocky got paid, when Stallone got paid, he went back to the same corner shop that he sold his dog at, right? He went back to that corner shop. He waited the whole day for the guy to turn up. He didn't turn up. So he stayed at the shop. He waited 2 days. He didn't turn up. He waited a whole week for that guy to turn back up with the same dog that he sold for $50, right? He said to this guy, hey man, look, I've been paid now. I'd really like to get my dog back. This guy said to him, I don't want to sell the dog. Rocky offered him $100, $200? The guy said no. Rocky offered him $500, $700. The guy said no. Now this guy bought the dog for $50 and he's refusing to sell the dog for $1,000. Eventually, Rocky bought that dog. He bought his dog back for 15 grand and he sold him for $50. You know, guys, you don't get anywhere without struggling. You don't accomplish anything without putting everything you have into your passion, you know? He loved that dog. That dog was with him when he had nothing. So paying 15 grand for that dog was nothing. It was like paying, it was better buying back that dog for 15 grand than it felt selling the dog for $50, you know? That's, guys, I hope this story is inspirational to you. Like I said at the start, a few of you guys will know about this story, and there's no doubt in my mind you put your feet back in the smoke break and you just listen to it, you know, enjoy the smoke and listen. But I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, yo, I'm going to Google this real quick. Is this true? I'm telling you it's true. It's inspirational. It really is. I have Instagram, guys. If you want to hit me up on Insta, it is UFC Lay. Yeah, I chat with everyone on there. It's really cool, especially on fight night. You know, I'm speaking to like 40 people at once on fight night. It's crazy. All right, guys, let's get into breaking down this main card. I hope you enjoyed that story. A little bit different, but it's a great story. It's one of my favorites, man. Magomed Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba. Man, we're going to spark up just purely because this fight needs a blessing, right? It needs a blessing. How many more times are we going to put this fight together, by the way? Like, seriously. Unbelievable. I mean, if there's a betting line for does this fight happen, what would be the odds? It's unbelievable. Okay, so Magomed Ankalaev. Let's start with him. So Magomed comes into this fight 4 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Magomed is an all-rounder pretty much. His grappling is second to none. His striking is nasty. You only have to look at what he did to Prachnio and Dolce. Even his loss to Paul Craig, he dominated that fight from start to finish. All the way up to the triangle choke, Magomed was in control of that fight. It's fair to say this man is an all-rounder. The opponent, Cutelaba, comes into this fight 4 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Despite the grappling background Cutelaba has, we know what this man is about. As soon as the ref says fight, he's simply looking to take you out. He isn't trying to be in a technical battle. It's purely, let me use my aggression and power to try take you out real quick. I've broke this fight down like 500 times. I'm sure most of you know my pick already. I believe Magomed wins this fight. If he can weather the storm in round 1, he should be able to work towards finishing Cutelaba. So for those reasons, I'm going to take Magomed via submission in round number 3. My odds would be Magomed minus 250, Cutelaba coming back plus 220. Now, can Cutelaba win this fight? Yes, he can. I think round 1 is a very dangerous round for anybody who steps in there with Cutelaba. That first round is dangerous, right? Cutelaba packs a lot of power. He's aggressive. He's a dangerous man for those first 5 minutes. But after that, he becomes quite fatigued, quite stationary. There's laboured punches coming towards the opponent that are quite telegraphed, right? So after round 1, I would really expect Magomed to use his skill advantage to get this fight done. The actual odds currently, Magomed minus 270, minus 280, Cutelaba plus 250, plus 260. I would say the odds are a little bit too high, but then again, if you're betting on Cutelaba, you could get a better line than plus 250. You may as well take TKO outright, because is there another way he wins this fight? Is he going to submit Magomed? Probably not. Is he going to go 15? Probably not. Round 1 or bust is my vibe for Cutelaba. Let me know who you're taking below, guys. Lauren Murphy versus Lilia Skahirova. And we're going to start with Lauren. So Lauren comes into this fight 5 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Lauren is, what's the word I'm looking for? Quite a scrappy fighter. Never been technically sound, never been great anywhere, really. But she's living proof that if you keep working on it, you will improve. You can only improve when you keep working. Her wrestling is fairly strong. The kickboxing isn't great, but like I said, it's improved. If you can outmuscle a girl like Modafferi, that really puts into words how physically strong you are. The opponent, Skahirova, comes into this fight 8 wins, 1 loss as a pro, making her UFC debut. From the tape I've seen, Skahirova seems to be a striker, quite composed, doesn't put herself into too many bad situations. I did notice on tape that her footwork seems to slow down considerably as the fight goes on. She becomes more flat-footed, quite a stationary target, which really could be a problem in this matchup. The reason I say it could be a problem is, like I said earlier, Lauren Murphy is a physically strong fighter. If she looks to push Skahirova up against the fence, or even shoots for those takedowns after round 1, I can't see her not having success with it. So purely for those reasons, I'm going to take Lauren Murphy via submission in round number 2. Lauren Murphy hasn't got any submissions in her UFC career yet, but I've got a feeling, just a small feeling, that this might be the one. My odds would be Murphy minus 180, Skahirova plus 150. Now Skahirova is taking this fight on very short notice. She's quite green in her MMA career, so you know, if she can go 15 minutes with Lauren Murphy, or if she can go 15 minutes and beat Lauren Murphy, man, she's making a real statement on short notice. But I have a feeling that Lauren Murphy, her grappling, her wrestling, it might be too much. Potentially end it with a submission, like I said. And the actual odds for this matchup are, we have Lauren Murphy coming in minus 250. Wow, a lot of respect going on Lauren Murphy. That's nice to see. Skahirova returning plus 200, plus 210. Yeah, it may be too soon for Skahirova, a fight like this, but at the end of the day, it's all experience, right? She really has nothing to lose taking this fight on short notice. It's all experience. My pick is going to be, though, Lauren Murphy. Phil Hawes versus Jacob Malkoun, and we're going to start with Phil. So Phil comes into this fight 8 wins, 2 losses as a pro, making his UFC debut. Phil recently had a Contender Series fight. He was able to land a huge right hand, got that fight done in beautiful fashion. His wrestling is pretty powerful, definitely gives him the chance to mix it up if he isn't liking what he's seeing on the feet. The opponent, Jacob, comes into this fight 4-0 as a pro, making his UFC debut. As you can tell by his record of 4-0, Jacob is extremely green in his MMA career so far. Pretty lucky to be getting the chance to debut on a pay-per-view main card. As for his skill set, it looks as basic as any 4-0 fighter would. He likes to land the outside and inside calf kick. Just like Phil, he will channel in some takedowns too. Pretty basic guy is Jacob at the moment, but what can you expect, right? He's 4-0. Phil has more experience. He's fought better opposition too. Had 2 Contender Series fights. That alone has me picking Phil in this fight. But I do want to mention that despite picking Phil, don't be surprised if Jacob is able to surprise us in this fight. It's not like Phil has tons of experience over Jacob. The experience he does have should show. The key word being should, right? My pick is going to be Phil via TKO in round number 2. I believe the takedowns of Phil, the work in top position, maybe that's the story. But like I said, Do not be surprised if it's not. My line would be Phil -170, Jacob +140. And the actual line is Phil -250, -270, Jacob +220, +230. Yeah, I'm not really sure how Phil is getting such a line, right? -170, -200 would be the max. Because like I said, Phil doesn't have tons of experience over Jacob. And Jacob is really green to the sport. So, in most ways, this really is a who the hell knows type of fight. How is round one going to play out? How will it play out if we get into the third round? Who's going to gas out? We don't really know. Both of these guys have a lot to prove in their career. But my story is going to be Phil takes Jacob down and potentially, works from there and is able to get a finish. But if it's not that, I'm not surprised. Both of these guys are green in the sport. Boy, this is a good one. Alexander Volkov versus Walt Harris. And we're going to start with Volkov. So Volkov comes into this fight 5 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a striker, a boxer. Volkov is one of the best in the heavyweight division when it comes to boxing at a distance. Only stopped by Derek Lewis and Curtis Blades. Against Derek, he was dominating that fight. Should have won that fight. But hey, you stop concentrating against Derek Lewis, you end up sleeping. Curtis Blades is arguably the best wrestler in the heavyweight division, so there's no shame in that loss. Walt Harris comes into this fight 6 wins, 7 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a striker. Walt Harris is very light on his feet for a heavyweight. The agility this man shows at times is nothing short of impressive. The quick performance against Alexei Oleinik and Spivak really highlights the agility that I'm speaking about. He's coming off a loss to Overeem, a fight that could have maybe been stopped in that first round. It wasn't meant to be though. My feelings on this fight are pretty mixed. I think Walt Harris absolutely has the agility, the power, precision to sleep Volkov in that first round. Man, even outside of the first round, I think Walt Harris is a dangerous guy. But I do have a feeling that Volkov will be able to dictate the range, that kicking range, the boxing range. Volkov is really good at dictating the space between his opponent. I think as this fight ticks on, Volkov will establish that range more and more, slowly pick away at Walt Harris over 15 minutes. Maybe a late stoppage, but I'm slightly favouring a decision win. I just think Walt Harris is the type of guy where, if you get too aggressive, you can find yourself in a bad situation. Volkov is quite a safe fighter. He fights on the outside, uses that reach, uses, control with the range. And that's why I'm slightly favouring a decision over a stoppage. But, man, a stoppage really could happen for either side. Walt Harris could get it done round 1 or even outside of round 1. Volkov could pick away at his opponent like prey, into the point where Walt Harris is just wilting. But I'm going to side with Volkov via decision. My numbers would be Volkov -200, Harris +170. And the actual numbers at the moment for this fight, we have Volkov -170, -180, Harris +150, +160. I completely agree with that line. I think the best chance for Walt Harris in this fight is going to be that first round. Maybe look to unsettle Volkov very quickly, Get in there, use that speed, agility. Look to close the distance between him and Volkov. Where Volkov in the first round is going to look to, dictate that range, establish that range quickly, and basically take control of the boxing and kicking range. My pick is going to be the Russian, but let me know who you're taking below. Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. I think we spark up for the co-main and the main event this week because, man, these fights are great, right? Okay, let's start with the Reaper. Rob Whittaker comes into this fight 12 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. the former 185 champion, a man that all of us can respect. Such a great fighter in every area. The boxing, the karate-like stance this man will use to kick the opponent's knees. The wrestling ability this man possesses, really high level. The conditioning. Where does Rob Whittaker really struggle? I can't think of one area in the game that Rob Whittaker needs to improve. He's a former champion who's climbing to regain his title. You can only respect Rob Whittaker's work. He's coming off a win to Darren Till in a super technical 25-minute battle. You know, after that fight, Rob Whittaker came out and said, "That is the most technical fight I have ever fought." You know, you have to respect that. You only have to go back and watch the concentration between both men in that fight. The respect that both men had for each other. And Rob Whittaker just showed us again why he's at the highest level in the game. This man is climbing the mountain again for that title shot. The opponent, Jared Cannonier, comes into this fight 6 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. A former heavyweight, a former light heavyweight, now fighting at 185. I took Cannonier as a big underdog against David Branch. A lot of people told me I was crazy. Now, 2 years on, he's potentially 1 fight away from a title shot at 185. I did go against Cannonier when it came to Jack Hermansson, and he really showed me he's not just a number in the weight class. He's really a dangerous guy. Takedown defense, spot on. The power this man possesses at 185, really the reason why he's made it this far in the weight class. I'm not confident in my pick, but then again, who really can be confident in making a pick in this fight? My pick is going to be Robert Whittaker. Rob has fought many opponents that impose a lot of danger. This matchup won't be anything new to him. He's proven he has the skill set and technique to win this type of matchup. Jared Cannonier, in my opinion, must find a TKO win to win this fight. I'd be pretty surprised if he could outpoint Whittaker over 15 minutes. I think Rob Whittaker can utilise many low kicks, in and out movement, even takedowns to score points in this fight. My pick is going to be Rob Whittaker via decision. But man, like I said, who can really be confident in picking this co-main event? My line would be Rob Whittaker minus 120, Cannonier plus 110. I'm really interested to see what way the community is going for this co-main event. I know a lot of people are going to be on that Cannonier line. A lot of people are going to be on Rob Whittaker's line. But I'm interested to see the comment section, you know. How many people are going to make that argument for Rob? How many people are going to make the argument for Jared? I think one thing we can agree on is this is a brilliant co-main event. Whoever wins this fight really goes in the right direction towards the title shot. Jared Cannonier, man, really powerful. Takedown defense, beautiful. He's reinvented himself. You know, he's done an Ortega pretty much. The line currently minus 110 each, which basically confirms this whole breakdown being spot on. You know, how can we pick? Rob Whittaker absolutely has the ability. Jared Cannonier has shown us, man, I'm a guy who's reinvented myself. I'm looking to be a champion, and he's on that path. Guys, please let me know who you're taking below. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Justin Gaethje. I'm already nervous. I mean, I'm breaking this fight down, and it feels like this fight's about to happen. I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous, guys. We're all nervous, right? Okay, so before I get into this breakdown, I got a lot of messages recently for my smoke break last week. A lot of you guys messaged me and basically said thank you for that smoke break message. And man, honestly, guys, you guys inspire me to do better. So if I inspire a few of you last week from that message, just know you inspire me too. Okay, let's get into breaking down this title fight. Man, I'm nervous. Okay, let's start with the champion, Khabib. Khabib comes into this fight 12-0 inside the UFC. Primarily a mauler, a master of combat sambo. If you've ever seen Khabib fight, and I'm sure everyone listening has, we know what he's about. He's about the same thing every damn fight, which really makes it that more impressive. Considering every single opponent he has fought, they know what he's going to do, but they cannot stop it. If you're in the middle of the octagon, Khabib will shoot really low to the ankle, the way he did against Conor and Al. If you're on the outside, he will use the fence to take you down. How do you stop Khabib? Can you stop Khabib? The opponent, Justin Gaethje, comes into this fight 5 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. The interim 155 champion, a man that loves violence inside the octagon. Justin Gaethje has slightly reinvented himself. When he first got to the UFC, he just wanted all-out wars. After that Poirier loss, he became slightly more composed with his violence. Justin is a brilliant low kicker, arguably the best low kicker in the UFC. How many guys can brutalize the calf the way Justin Gaethje can? Barboza? Who else? There's a few names, but not to the level of what Justin Gaethje can do to your calf. You know, Justin Gaethje with those low kicks, there's not many guys that can do that. Okay, let's get to speaking about this fight properly. Justin Gaethje is a great wrestler. We haven't seen it though. Why haven't we seen it? We haven't seen it because Justin Gaethje doesn't really like to wrestle. He's on record saying wrestling makes him tired, and he's never been a great offensive wrestler anyway. He just loves to knock people out, and that's okay. Gaethje, however, will have to use his wrestling defensively. He will have to scramble, give his back up potentially to get to his knees, to get back to his feet. He cannot accept bottom position. He will definitely look to use that wrestling background to get back to his feet. Here's the problem though. Khabib is one of the very best, if not the best, at taking you down and keeping you down. If you do get up, he's straight onto a single or a double or taking your back up against the fence. I could sit here and speak about this fight for an hour, I really could, but let's try and make it simple. For the moments Gaethje is on the feet, Khabib is in trouble. He really is. A lot of people seem to think that Khabib slows down later in his fights. But I'd like to mention that if Khabib slows down, can we take a look at his opponents? Barboza, exhausted after 10. Conor, exhausted after 10. Dustin, exhausted after 10. Al, pretty exhausted after 15. The common misconception that Khabib slows down, in my opinion, shouldn't be there anymore. Yes, every fighter does slow down, but if we look at his opponents, they look way, way worse. They all look like, please don't take me down anymore. Please, I'm not even trying to knock you out anymore. I'm just simply trying to stay on my feet because you're taking my soul, man. Justin Gaethje is without a doubt the best wrestler Khabib would have fought to date, which basically makes this fight the more interesting. Gaethje needs to land those low kicks. He needs to get back to his feet. He needs to try and do something that not one person has done yet. Could he do it? He could do it. He really could. But I'm going to side with the fighter I've never picked against, and that's Khabib Nurmagomedov. And I'm going to take Khabib to finish this fight later on via submission in round number 4. My odds would be Khabib minus 200, Justin coming back plus 170. Now I'm just going to go back to Justin Gaethje here. Could he do it? When I said he can, I really mean it, guys. I think if anyone's going to beat Khabib, I really think it's now or never. Because if it's not going to be Justin, let me ask you, who is it going to be? Tony? I don't think so. I don't think anyone's going to beat Khabib if it isn't going to be Justin. And that's why I think so many people are interested in this fight. He does have that wrestling background. He's never used it in the UFC. Like I said, he just wants to knock people out, and that's okay. He will have to use it defensively. Is it going to be good enough? Maybe in round 1, maybe in round 2. Is it going to be good enough later in the fight? Some people think maybe Justin's wrestling defensively will come more into play later on in the fight, but my opinion is I think it won't. I think Khabib has shown us as the fight goes on, yes, he's not a robot, he is going to slow down, but the opponent always seems to look worse. And I just think Khabib's going to drown him. He's going to drown him in there, takedown after takedown. And before we know it, we're watching another Khabib fight where we're all sitting back thinking, this guy is just unbelievable. His opponents know what he's going to do, but they just cannot stop it. Can Gaethje do it? I'm not going to sit here and say it's impossible because, man, like I said, it's now or never. I really believe that. My pick is going to be Khabib later on in this fight via submission. But man, I wouldn't be surprised. And the actual odds currently, Khabib minus 300, minus 350. Justin Gaethje plus 270, plus 280. I do think the line's a little bit off. And, you know, to argue that, I'd have to repeat myself, right? It's now or never. I think the best bet you could get on Justin is a TKO. I don't see him going 25 minutes and winning that type of fight. I don't see him submitting Khabib either. You know, that would be... Man, imagine that, guys. That would be crazy. Let me know who you're taking below. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be taking that chance on Justin. And I'm here to tell you that chance you're taking really isn't impossible. You know, it's... Justin Gaethje's a madman. He loves violence. He's going to use that defensive wrestling. And for the moments he's on his feet, man, Khabib really is in trouble. You don't want to be standing with Justin Gaethje if you're Khabib. My pick is going to be that Sambo, that relentless wrestling, that constant takedown. I just can't go against it, guys. Let me know who you're taking below. All right, peace.